He's joining. I just had a call with him. He found the link shared by.
So we are now live. I will start with the introduction.
Great.
A very good afternoon to all of you. I am Minakshi, welcoming you all on behalf of Solar Quarter and First View Group in today's webinar on Solar Market Outlook Morocco. With a focus on solar energy, Morocco has been at the forefront of renewable energy growth in Africa. The Moroccan government has been working to foster an atmosphere that promotes investment in the solar energy industry. The government supports the sector's growth through a number of policies and initiatives. They include starting a feed in tariff scheme and establishing a fund specially for solar energy. The virtual webinar will highlight several key trends emerging in the industry as region builds its solar capacity and a discussion on recent opportunities and challenges related to major initiatives taken by the government to achieve the sustainability goal. Let me introduce today's panel speakers. We have with us Mr. Amin Araki Hussaini, who's also the moderator for the session. He's a solar energy expert. We have with us Mr. L.K. Verma from Power and Sun, Mr. Abubakar Benazuz from Green Energy Park, Mr. Amin Benunua, Energy Expert Morocco, and Mr. Walid Chahati, Wine Energy Group. Mr. Hussaini will be the moderator for the session, like I said. Here, I would like to make a small announcement for all the attendees. You can post your questions in the Q&A chat box, and our speakers will answer those questions at the end of the panel discussion. Now, without any further delay, let us initiate our much-awaited panel discussion for today. Over to you, Mr.
Thank you very much, Meenakshi. Hello to everyone. Hello to our dear speakers and also attendees. Today we will try to cover the solar energy, the solar market in Morocco. Today, let's say the topics that we will cover during this webinar are the latest developments and trends in the solar energy market. We will cover also the best practices for development, construction, and operation and maintenance of the plants. We will see what has been achieved so far in the country in terms of solar projects. And let's say we will discuss also some best practices and innovation in the sector and what is available in the country in terms of value chain, in terms of production, and in terms of services also in the country. I will first let each of our speakers introduce himself, maybe in a very short introduction, and then I will start asking questions. So I will start by Mr. Abu Bakr. So Mr. Ben Azzouz, if you can introduce yourself quickly, please. Abu Bakr, you are muted.
Thank you very much, Amin. Good afternoon, everybody. Very, very happy to be part of this panel discussion, and thank you very much for Solar Quarter Africa for organizing this. My name is Abu Bakr Ben Azzouz. I'm managing the department of electrical system and photovoltaic systems. I have like 7 years working experience in PV, in variety of projects like project development, technical studies, commissioning, testing, qualification, and capacity building. Yes, I will have the chance like later to elaborate like on all these topics. Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ben Azzouz. I will turn to Professor Bennouna. Please, Professor.
Good evening and thank you for the invitation. My name, as it is written there, is Amin Bennouna. I have fallen in the solar energy oven on the 80s, 1980. I am presently retired from teaching physics at the University of Qadiyya. I'm an expert in energy. I became, in fact, I was not trained to be trained, neither educated to be an energy expert, but I became that after I had to put my feet in a solar energy company in the 90s. That's it.
Thank you, Professor. Mr. Verma?
Uh, Thanks, Amin, and thanks to actually Solar Quarter for organizing this and inviting us to be a part of this panel. My name is Alk Verma, and I am currently joining the session from Dubai. I'm founder and managing director of Power and Sun. Power and Sun is a company which is engaged in a wholesale distribution of solar components. And when I say wholesale, it's around 400 to 500 megawatt per year. So that's the size we move. We have already crossed 1.2 gigawatt of shipments in the last 3 4 years. I'm so happy to be a part of this because last 2 weeks back I was in Morocco and could able to spend some time in Casablanca and Tangier along with the exhibition on a solar. So very nice place, and I would certainly like to be a part of Morocco solar growth, which is there on the plate. Thanks to all.
Thank you, Mr. Verma. Mr. Shahti?
Hello everyone, thank you for having me today. My name is Sahti Walid and I'm the project manager for Wind Energy Group, a leading solar energy service provider with customers all over around Morocco. We're both importer and supplier of solar energy equipment, which has a positive impact of the overall cost of our installations. And our goal is very simple: is to contribute to the energy transition of our country and the whole world by encouraging citizens and organizations to use the energy which is abundant, reliable, and free. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shahti. So, in order to start this webinar about this Moroccan solar market, so I will first turn to Professor Banouna because he is well recognized, let's say, to study and to provide some his opinion also on the energy market. So, Professor Banouna, can you please tell us, let's say, from your perspective, what has been achieved so far regarding the energy market and especially solar over the last 1 or 2 decades? And let's say, what is the status of solar energy today in the Moroccan energy market?
Well, for those who are not from Morocco, Morocco is a country today consuming something like 24 million tons of equivalent oil, and part of this consumption in the final energy is electricity. And Morocco should have consumed in 2022 something like 42 terawatt hours of electricity, and consumed something and produced, sorry, something like 40 terawatt hours of electricity, and imported the rest from Spain, a bit less than two terawatt hours in 2022. This is for the global numbers. Now, the renewable part in the global energy represents only 8%, only 8%, and in the electricity, renewable energy represents something like 20%. But within this 20%, in fact, solar represents uh, 30% of it, meaning that Morocco has produced something like 8,000 gigawatt hours or 8 terawatt hours in 2022, among which a bit less than 5 for wind and a bit more than 3 from solar. Uh, those are the numbers as they are today. Sorry, a bit more than 4 and a bit more than 4 than for wind and a bit less than 3 for solar. The biggest part of this, I'm speaking here for all what is in in the balance sheets. We will speak later about what is outside the balance sheets because it's in fact more interesting. Now, these this in this solar part, the the PV part is not very important for the time being for presently. It is generated by something like 240 megawatts installed in something one, two, three, four, five, six, seven PV plants. This stands for, let's say, for centralized electricity production. And well, that's it. But the interesting is the decentralized part, which is not in the national energy balance. Because Morocco is a very old PV country. Morocco started imported, importing PV technology late in the 80s. And I remember at that time, Morocco was called the Mecca of PV because Morocco was consuming something like 4% of the worldwide PV production. That was in the time that calculators and watches were feeded with with the with the with small PV amorphous silicon PV cells, and the worldwide market was representing only 25 megawatts. Well, Morocco at that time could achieve something like 4%. But let's forget the history. If I can put a slide, it would be nice. Do you think it's possible?
I think we have the picture, Professor. But let's say, I mean, this is of course the period you are talking about, the 80s. Well, I don't remember. I was too young to remember, but I know exactly what you're talking about because Morocco, let's say, at that time was focused on the electrification, and many
Yeah,
small villagers were
rural electrification.
powered by off-grid. Is that right? By off-grid
Yes.
small solar home systems.
Yes. Now, if we come to recent numbers, I will give you. I gave you a very old view. I'm going to give you a much more recent. I think that the Moroccan market has reached something like 275 megawatts in 2022, last year, I mean. And the cumulative installations in the 20 last years have reached 1.25 gigawatts. 1.25, among which 0.27 installed in 2022. Of course, this is the cumulative, but I told you already that among the 1.25 gigawatts, 240 megawatts are centralized. All the rest, meaning that almost 1 gigawatt, is due to decentralized PV. Decentralized PV in the I will not speak about the history because Amin said already that we were Morocco was essentially doing rural electrification. In the last period after, let's say, 2010, the major part of the PV installed in Morocco was dedicated to PV pumping in in rural areas. But nowadays, the percentage of grid connected installations is becoming very important. I will give you only two rough numbers. I am reading the newspapers every day and some social media, and I collect all the information of grid connected PV in Morocco for installations which are announced to be above 10 kilowatts. Okay, grid connected installations above 10 kilowatts. In 2021, the whole year, I could collect 34 megawatts of these kind of installations.
34 megawatt of installation above 10 kilowatt.
Above 10 kilowatts and grid connected and publicly announced. I'm not speaking about those who did not announce their installations. Okay, and I will surprise you. The numbers this morning, the same number this morning, reached 41 megawatts, meaning that I'm repeating 34 megawatts. I'm collecting the same information since 2018. Okay, the same number collected in 2022 was 34 megawatts. For January, February, and the first week of March, it is 41. The number of installations above 500 megawatts is dominating. Each week, we have announcements of plants above the megawatt. It is just, I'm completely surprised. I'm completely surprised.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know where we will go for 2023, but for sure the decentralized part is going at least to 500 megawatts or even above.
Yeah.
Apart of course of the installations will be done by AMEA, by Voltaria,
By big utility scale.
utility scale PV.
Okay.
Well,
Okay, Professor.
Well, I think I have given a frame for
Yeah. Yes,
what we
exactly.
face, and I will
This
stop
is,
here.
yeah, this is very interesting. Thank you very much, Professor. I think you have, let's say, provided some insights on the market. So, especially that there are these different, let's say, end use of solar PV. Let's say you have what you call decentralized, which is mostly the utility scale, and you have the decentralized, which includes, let's say, the solar pumping, which includes the CNI, which includes the small on-grid installations. So we know that Morocco has set very ambitious, let's say, targets in terms of renewable energy and also solar. We all know about Warzazat, let's say, PV, let's say, solar plant, because you have CSP and also PV. So I will now ask Mr. Shahti maybe to explain a little bit more about this distinction and this differentiation between each application, because we have what we call the utility scale, what we call the solar pumping, what we call the off-grid, what we call the on-grid. So if you can give us also, Mr. Shahti, your view on what has been achieved on these different applications, maybe some example of project, and how do you see the size also of the market of these different, let's say, end use? Thank you.
All right, so based on my experience, Morocco's solar energy expanding rapidly with the growing government support and advantageous claims, for example, tax exemptions, reduced traffic tariffs, and I think Morocco is in the perfect position to pivot towards renewable energy. In addition, Morocco aims to generate 80% of its electricity from renewable energy by 2015. And this is reflected through the increasing availability and affordability of solar energy alternatives. For example, recently, Marjan and Nariva Services signed a strategic partnership on February 15th in Casablanca to launch a program to equip all Marjan hypermarkets with photovoltaic solar power plants by 2025, I think. So after they just released the pilot set in Marrakesh, Narvas will support Marjan in the energy transition of the other 32 stores in 10 cities, namely Casablanca, Agadir, Tangier, Mohammedia, etc. And this program will reduce its carbon footprint and its energy bill for sure. Recently, also, there is an industrial park of Ain Johra, it's in Tiflis, just saw the launch of the construction works of the first 100% Moroccan solar water heater factory named Maisal, which is directed by Mr. Badr Eken, who is the ex-president of the Moroccan Research Institute for Solar Energy, and the current CEO of GI3. So this factory will be operational in Tiflis before June 2023, and of course it will enable a production of almost 40,000 units of solar water heaters per year, made only in Morocco. Also, there is a good news. The large stadiums managed by the company Sonages in Marrakesh, Agadir, Tangier, and Fes will soon operate on solar energy. This was just launched last July. So I believe that the future of solar energy is bright in Morocco. In addition to what Mr. Bennouna said, I think there is a large-scale integrated program for producing electricity sustainably. There is this one largest project called the 580 megawatt Norway ZZ, which is one of the largest projects in the world, and its cornerstone is in the construction of several solar power plants, not only in their large-scale corporate and government investment initiatives, but individuals, families are more interested in solar energy alternatives as well. So although there has been a mass push for macro projects by the government, there remains immense potential for bringing solar energy to individuals and industries. I think the next decade will be a pivotal time for reforming renewable energy laws to make solar energy even more accessible for the general public. So I think that the country's favorable natural resource, supportive government policies, strong commitment to renewable energy make it an attractive market for solar developers and also for investors.
Okay, okay. Thanks very much, Mr. Shahti. So, what I can remember from all what you have said is that first we have the utility scale market, which includes, of course, Noor Warzazat, more than 500 megawatt, three, let's say, CSP plant, and three all other PV plants, one in Laayoun, one in Boujdour, and another one in Warzazat. And then you have Noor Tafilalt, as, let's say, a cumulative capacity of 120 megawatt, split it into three different sites. So this is for the big power plants, and then you have a mix of solar pumping and let's say CNI and residential and also off-grid. And from the different sources, Professor Bennouna said that from his own, let's say, calculation, that he reached, let's say, more than 4 megawatt. And from other sources, let's say, we can notice that this market size is even higher than 300 megawatt per year. So
Sorry,
if we keep
sorry, I mean, just a detail. The 34 megawatts are absolutely not calculations. They are plants identified one by one. Okay? The 275 I gave are due to calculations based on imports and customs and so on. But the
Okay.
34 are something like 40, 46 or 47 plants identified one by one. Thank you.
Okay. So just the publicly owned, the publicly announced plants, and what you have personally, let's say, let's say, noticed in the news. Uh, let's move now, let's say, to the value chain of the solar market. So I will now ask Mr. Ben Azouz to talk about, I mean, his knowledge about what is manufactured here in Morocco, what is available, also the let's say the services that are available maybe here in the country for developers, for installators, for EPCs that are wishing, let's say, to find services for solar installation. So, Mr. Ben Azouz, please.
Thank you very much. I mean, it was really interesting to see the contribution of Professor Benouna, my colleague like Walid. So we all agree that there is like an increasing demand on PV like in Morocco, and this is like supposed to go even further. I just want to mention that like OCP has launched like a national energy investment which is around like 130 billion dirhams for 4 years. So like there is like increasing demand on PV with like Morocco wants to become like a player in the hydrogen market. So we expect like more PV, and that's why it's important to speak about like local integration and local manufacturing. Currently, we have like we can say like two manufacturers like Almaden and like Jet Energy with 30 megawatt. Almaden like with a capacity as they claim like around like 250. The Moroccan manufacturing is suffering from like the underuse of the installed capacity, and we have to agree that we have like unsuccessful like experiences in the topic for many reasons. The first one is the price. We are still like not competitive with China. Second one, the private sector like has some concerns about like the quality of the locally produced panels, and especially like with the international standards and terms. And then third, you have to agree that like the government, that like the public sector did not like make any initiatives to support like the local manufacturing of PV. Which is like very unfortunate, because there is like very high potential for like local integration. There's like high potential for export, since we have like a free trade agreement with a lot of countries, and we have this proximity to Europe. There's like high potential for like job creation. So like the the manufacturing of 1 gigawatt like PV panels could like create like 600 like jobs, direct jobs, and later on like fabrication cells could even like create more. And and, uh, and there's like huge concern about like the energy dependency, the energy transition like dependency of Morocco, since we heavily depend like on countries such as like China to produce and to ship like PV panels. So there is like a lot to be done like in these regards, and Morocco should maybe like learn from like international experiences such as like the one in India, and launch like a national program, and at least like define a minimal capacity of PV panels to be like produced locally. In terms of research and development, there is as well like huge potential, since right now like in the PV market we see the introduction of some emerging technologies such as like IBC and heterojection. And Morocco could take advantage like of this, let's say, new phase of PV, just like to find like a position in these like emerging technologies. This is what Europe is trying to do like at this stage with heterojection PV panels. And and like with the current like unstable international situation, with a lot of geopolitical like concerns, pandemics, and like countries are more going toward like national manufacturings. and like Morocco, the government should really like take more actions in this regard. Speaking of the green energy park, so like we offer like facility for like research and development, for testing in real condition like of PV panels, but as well have like a laboratory for the qualification testing of PV models, just to reinforce like a little bit this like insurance, this quality insurance in Morocco. But like at this stage, it's like critical that all like the key players of the solar sector in Morocco, that they get together and try to support like the local manufacturings of like PV panels like in the first stage, and then go vertically like through the value chain. Thank you very much, Amin.
Mr. Benazouz, just one more specific question. What kind of quality tests do you perform at your laboratory?
Yeah, that's a good. That's a good question. So we can perform like the flash testing of the PV panel, like using like solar simulator. We have like a AAA solar simulator to measure like the rated power under like the standard test conditions. We can use the flash test for some stress testing using like the thermal camera as well to see like the performance under like heated like condition. We have the load tester for testing like the resilience of PV panels against mechanical stress. We have like the insulation performance testing to measure like the insulation resistance and the leakage current in humid conditions. We have as well like the infrastructure for all the tests related to the outdoor exposure, to measure like the performance, the stability of PV panels like in like the outdoors. So this is like a couple of tests, and we are trying as well to be equipped with the climate chamber to do all the tests related like to the lifespan and degradation of PV panels by applying like accelerated like cycles of temperature and humidity.
Okay, okay. Thanks very much. Thanks very
Thank you.
much, Mr. Benazouz. This is indeed very good support, let's say, especially for developers that are willing, let's say, to ensure some quality assurance. So I will turn now to Mr. Verma. So basically, the objectives are clearly set, and the willingness, let's say, to install and to do solar project is there in the country. What are for you the challenges in terms of distribution? Let's say how distribution has to be organized in the country so that, let's say, uh, equipment and material is available, and also it can provide sufficiency, let's say, to the market.
Thanks, Amin, for the question. Uh, we are talking about a speed of solarization actually, and whenever the country gets into a solarization process, it's always like this of 50, 60, 100, say 150 megawatt. Now, when this 100 megawatt or 150 megawatt or 200 megawatt has to go to a gigawatt scale, not only through the utility scale, actually sector, but through a C&I and residential. And that is the time you face a supply chain challenges, because most of these components which are used in a solar industry are produced in China. Whether it is inverter, I think 80%, maybe, except few inverters which are getting produced in Europe. Rest of those inverters are produced in China. Then we have, almost all the tier one PV module manufacturers in huge gigawatt scales are produced again in China. The products to move from one place to another place and then getting custom cleared and reaching to a site, it's a cycle of close to around 45 to 60 days. Especially in Morocco, it will be, I think, something around 45 to 60 days minimum. You have I'm not counting the manufacturing lead time and your order processing time. So without this, if you have a cycle of 45 days, and this is an industry where the technology is changing in a 6 months time. So you are exposed to a challenge where the procurement cycle is taking around 2.5 months to 3 months almost, and the technology is changing in 6 months. So we need to talk about here the speed of solarization. So let's park this aside. Uh, Come back on a key subject now, that how do we increase this process of the solarization to a mega scale. And I'm actually holding my talks only for a C&I and a residential side. Utility is a totally different ballgame. Now, very few of us who are associated with the solar industry, they emphasize and they spend time and they understand actually that 75% of their time, energy, and money is actually spent in making the materials available to site. Now, if that much of amount of money you are spending it in making the products available to the site, and 15-20% is only, or 25% is only on installation, and 5% is on commissioning, the cost of a components in a solar industry is around 80%. And very less work and very less focus has actually been made uh, on this area, which holds a time close to around 70-75%, the time and the money which is around again 70-75%. So this, in my opinion, is purely a subject of supply chain. And when you try to put the supply chain practices and principle on this industry, which are proven right from automobile or right from the computer industry, which are proven practices and principles, which, I mean, not from now, they are maybe from last 60-70 years. The entire automobile industry has thrived only because they could able to manage the supply chain. Only the retail sectors also is another example. The competitiveness which is hidden in a supply chain management is actually being unearthed uh, by the solar industry. And this is the area where we as a company work. Uh, we have practices and principles very detailed, working on a demand chain planning, mapping the market demand on a real time basis, converting them into the projections and forecasts, deploy inventory even when it is on the sea, or when it is on the transit. So this area is in most of the webinars I participate, or most of the seminars I speak about this, because in my opinion, there are companies who talk about the technology. Manufacturers' job is to drive the technology. Policies is being handled by the government. Regulations, policies, all can be this thing controlled. But very few emphasis is actually on how to make the products available to the site, thereby reducing at least 30-40% of project turnaround time. And when you reduce a project turnaround time, if the project of say 2 MW is getting closed in 6 months, can it be completed in 3 months? So I think this is required at this stage, because I've seen the countries, I have read the success stories, how say 30, 50, 100 MW goes to 1 GW. So is the industry experts or the participants of the supply chain or the members are actually prepared for it? It is as good as inviting 50 people or 20 people in your home for say for a feast, but in the back end in the kitchen, the preparations are not in place. So this, in my opinion, needs to be looked at, and it is not a one company or two companies job. It is a holistic approach has to be brought into this subject. We, in our capacity, try to contribute in a small way. We do it in Middle East, or now we are doing it in a different part of the world. And to address this, we have last 2 weeks back, I was in Morocco for this exhibition. We took a decision that we need to have a warehouse here, we need to have a office here, and it's in a process now. We are going to hold those talks. We're trying to see that if we participate in our small way or whatever way we can in this growth journey of Morocco.
Okay, okay. Thanks a lot, Mr. Verma. I think this is the message is very clear. So especially that we went through, I mean, last period we went through of COVID and also of these transportation issues, that many projects were on hold because of supply chain problems. And this is a key topic, obviously, for the EPCs, for the clients, for everyone, to secure the supply chain so that when a project has to be built, has to be implemented, it is not delayed by 6 months, 1 year, or two, or even 2 years sometimes. So thank you very much. Now, let's say we haven't we haven't talked so much about the regularity, the let's say legal framework, because it's a bit scary and it's a bit. But I would like to ask Professor Bennouna not about the legal framework of of energy and solar energy in Morocco, because it will be endless. But I mean, in your opinion, Professor, what has to be done in Morocco to further reinforce the solar market? Let's say to because now the need is there, the players are there. We see, let's say, we notice an increase of the markets year after year, but we all are aware that it's still very small compared to the potential of Moroccan market. So for you, let's say, what needs to be done in terms of legally or maybe something else to further reinforce the market and to make it even bigger? Professor, please unmute the mic.
Yes, thank you. I mean, first of all, I mean, most of the Moroccans who here know already that my opinion about the legal framework, the present legal framework. I think that the last law in self-consumption is not an encouraging law. It's just a law for controlling what happens here and there. It's obvious, and the Article 1 says that it wants to control, and no, there is no incitative framework within this law. The only incitative aspect in Morocco for solar and for PV specifically is the fact that VAT is exempted, except if there is a professional to say that. That is the only thing existing which is incitative. There is another element which pushes the average sizes of installations for self-production to increase now, because the Moroccan industry exporting to Europe will be paying taxes according to their emissions to produce any industrial product. So all the industrialists in Morocco are trying to decarbonize their manufacturing. And this is why we see a lot of plants, PV plants, bigger than 100 kilowatts and 500 kilowatts in the last weeks. This is because all the last month there were a lot of papers and forums and so on about decarbonization. And of course, the easiest way to decarbonize is to self-produce its own electricity, clean with the PV. And this is why I think that the demand is going to explode for grid connected systems for industry. And I don't have that much to say about the legal framework because I consider that it's apart from the how do you call it, the centralized plant. What I call centralized plant is the well, for which the legal framework is there. For all what is outside this utility scheme, there is no legal framework. I mean, we are allowed now to inject electricity in the low voltage grid, in the medium voltage grid. The fact is that all those who do self consumption or self production installations have to block injection of electricity because when they have when they have digital counters, they have to pay for what they inject. Okay. This is a small detail. There are three types of counters in Morocco. The old counters, which go up and down, and those who put installations trying to take profit from this, the utility, the distributor knows it and change the counter for a numeric. Second case, those who have a counter which doesn't reverse. These don't have problems. They can inject or not inject electricity, but they are not paid for it in any case. And the poor ones who have numeric counters, they have to block the injection because if they don't block the injection, they will have to pay for it. These are the three cases for injecting electricity today. But if we have not an intelligent read of the last self-production law, not an intelligent, but just a straight reading of the law. One, Article 1 says that it concerns all the self-production in Morocco and not only for PV or solar or wind or whatever. This means that all the traditional industrial self-productors of electricity are concerned by this law, starting from the OCP, starting from Cellulose du Maroc, starting from Cosumar. We have a lot of big chemistry industrialists who generate heat and produce part of the electricity they consume. And this is something like 4,000 gigawatts hours a year, and it doesn't appear in the national balance. All these industrialists are concerned by this law now, and not only the people having 1 kilowatt peak on their roof. This is the fact. This is the reality. I encourage all of you to read the text and understand what is behind the words. There is a last thing I would say about the legal framework because um, we don't know where we are going to go with the average size of plants, because presently we have plants generating inside 1 megawatt, and they consume it. Thank you to the Kirchhoff laws. They consume it inside and they don't inject electricity. But now, for those who have, let's say, two factories, one factory with land and another one with no land available, they just cannot send electricity from one place to another because, except if they are in the high voltage grid. You cannot send electricity to the medium voltage grid and take it in another place. For the time being, it is not possible. So there are a lot of things, but whatever happens, I think that the market will grow and grow and grow and grow until what? Well, until at least everybody will see that there are a lot of people producing their own electricity. I don't know where you live, guys, but I'm living in Marrakesh, and all the villas in the suburb of Marrakesh, you can count, let's say, 100 houses, and among the 100 houses, you will count two PV grid connected systems on the roof. So, and we have in this country something like 1 million individual houses like this. Imagine that all these 1 million had only 2 kilowatts. We have something like 2 gigawatts of market sleeping there. Apart from all these industrialists who have to decarbonize. And I'm not saying that GIZ said it before me. If you accumulate all these possibilities of, let's say, rich domestic self production and industrial decarbonization, we can reach a market of something like 27 gigawatts. These 27, I'm not even speaking about the gigawatts set by OCP recently. This is the recent nice surprise. And all of this will happen in this country even if they don't give help. So, uh, it will happen. I told you why. Because one, PV electricity made by yourself costs less than 30, 40 Moroccan cents per kilowatt hour. And these people who will install this are already paying electricity for 150 cents. They have the opportunity to pay electricity, let's say, 3, 4 times less. And all those who will understand this will put plants gradually, and all of this pack of let's say of newcomers will be accelerated by the industries wanted to decarbonize their production before 2007. And I don't know where we're going. They have put a law for self-production, and they have said that the regulatory framework will come before 2007. No, in fact, they have written that it will come in the 4 years after the publication of the law. The law was published in January 2003, and if you calculate 4 years, it's 2007. I think that before 2007, self-production in Morocco will just be huge and huge and huge.
Exactly.
I at least we will reach something like 4, 6 gigawatts by 2007, and at that time probably we will have a regulatory framework for self-production in Morocco.
Okay. Okay, Professor.
Uh,
Well,
Please, we have some people not from Morocco hearing us. I have to give them just a simple number. The yearly peak power, in Morocco is about 7,000 megawatts. Okay, 7,000 megawatts, 7 gigawatts. It's the peak in Morocco, and we have to provide this to the Moroccan grid usually in July or August each year. Okay, and I'm speaking about 4 to 6 gigawatts PV, which we can reach before 2030. in decentralized PV. Only those who will connect to the grid, and self-produce part of the electricity. I can see it now. I can see it now. I'm not telling you that I'm dreaming. I can see it now because the sales are saturating and the sales will decrease in Morocco in the next years. The sales, what is sales? It is why should in Morocco where Renault is there, Peugeot is there, where we have a lot of industry coming, and we have the global sales of electricity decreasing. It is simply because it is completed by this decentralized electricity. And in terms of peak power, it represents already something like 10%. In terms of energy, it still represents peanuts. It's still 3%. It's nothing. But in terms of peak power, it's already very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. What I note to summarize is that I think we all agree that the potential of solar PV is huge. There are still some constraints in terms of legal framework, but I think everyone agrees that this will not stop the increase of the market and the development of the market, because even though let's say politicals have delayed a lot the laws, but we still notice that a lot of projects are there and a lot of projects are coming out from the ground. So before we move to the Q&A session, I can maybe take some.
I mean, may I
Yes,
have
yes,
just too few seconds? I retired in September, and they have taught solar PV for something like 20 years. 20 years ago, we were teaching to the students how to sell solar, and we were trying to explain to the customer that it's environmental friendly, that it is nice, that it will help the girls to go to school and not to have to go to collect the water and so on. We have 1,000 arguments except the more simple one which we have today and which I was teaching hopefully before retiring. PV is cheap, PV is cheap, PV is cheap. Those who don't want to hear this will just uh, not be in the right place of the history. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Professor. I can take maybe one or two remarks, final remarks from the speakers before we move to Q&A session. Mr. Ben Azzouz, Mr. Shahti, Mr. Verma, do you have something to add to the topic?
I just want to add one point regarding to what are the problems that the current company are facing, or what are the risks that we are facing as solar technology continues to improve and the costs continue to decrease. It is likely that we will see even greater adoption of solar energy in the upcoming years. We all know that solar panels have become more affordable in recent years, making the shift towards renewable energy a more attractive alternative to traditional electricity. These, I think, that they are the key drivers behind the growing market of solar energy in Morocco. However, development projects in Morocco requires careful planning, coordination, and execution, working with experienced partners, including local stakeholders. All of this can help to ensure a successful outcome. In addition to staying up to date on changes to local regulations and policies, this, I believe, that can help to mitigate risks and maximize opportunities.
Thank you very much, Walid. Indeed, we have noticed that the market is more and more professional, with professional installators, with professional distributors, with professional let's say, developers, and also public entities are so helping, like Cluster ONR or other ministries are helping, let's say, putting in place some quality insurance there. So you are right, the market is more and more professional. So, Minakshi, maybe we can go to the questions.
I'll present the questions on the screen.
So, Professor, this question seems to be addressed to you. Professor, can you unmute?
Dear Sukaina, the source is me. Full stop. I collect information. I collect information at the end of each year from the Office d'échange, which you can do by yourself. Okay, and the information available today is still stops at end of September. So what I have done is that I have calculated the peak watts imported between the. I take the difference between import and exports because Morocco imports and re-exports some PV technology. I make the difference between the import and the exports, and at the end of September, I got some numbers which I multiplied by 12 and divided by 9 to get the end of year. Okay.
Thank you, Professor Amin. I will present the next question on the screen now. Would
Who would
anyone
like to take this? Yeah, who would
like
like to take this question?
Yes, maybe I can just provide like some like useful information that that the Moroccan Agency for Energy Efficiency has launched like a program to support like industries to decarbonize like themselves and to give some kind of label or like certification and this and this program is maybe like the main initiative that has been like taken nationally like on this level in which like we provide like industries with technical assistance in order like to limit like their emissions and energy losses and deficiencies and then give them like a label as like a green like industrial. So this is like the main initiative that has been like taken on the national level. We have still talk about like the carbon tax, and here we have like some industries that are like concerned, especially the one that do like a lot of shipping like to Europe. So like these ones are in position in which they are like forced to decrease like their carbon tax in order like to be able to remain competitive when they are like supplying to the European market. So these are like few information in this regard.
would anyone like to take
Circular.
this up?
Circular economy.
Tough, tough.
We are not at this stage, right, Professor?
In fact, the both questions have, for the time being, the same answer. We are still in this country at the level of treating all all this problem case by case. That is, in fact, the reality. We don't have still. We have a legal framework. I mean, all the industrialists today are forced to make an audit, an energy audit, but there is still nothing to force them to reduce their consumption. Usually, the auditors try to come out from the factory with advices to reduce consumption of energy. But that's negawatt. That's not circular economy. Circular economy exists in Morocco since a very long time in an informal way, and there are some companies here trying to make formal what exists in the informal way. For instance, not everybody knows it, but there is a collection of oil from the restaurants. There is for producing biofuels. There is a collection of oil from cars in the stations. There is a collection of a lot of what is paper, plastic, and so on, but in an informal way. And there are already some small companies trying hardly to make this thing happen in a formal way. But the reality is that it is still a case by case. There are still no how do you call it, national initiative to make this country jump completely in the circular economy. This is the fact.
So
We'll
I
take
want to
one
add,
last question. Yeah.
I want to add a point to the similar question. In the context of the Moroccan solar market, the circular economy can be applied in several ways. For example, recycling and the reuse of materials, upcycling, and let's say the production of solar panels and other equipment for the solar industry requires a variety of materials such as glass, metals, and silicones. And by recycling these materials, the industry can reduce its dependence on virgin materials and decrease the amount of waste generated. So this can be very efficient in this case.
But
Um,
if you see the practical part of it, PV modules life is around 25 years. So where is the question of reuse and a regeneration comes in this? So I think circular economy in a solar industry, the question is extremely tough. It's I don't really understand how in a solar industry, circular economy uh, can help or until unless we have a complete control on the value chain.
True. In summary, the circular economy can play a crucial role in the Moroccan solar market by promoting sustainable and efficient use of resources, reducing waste, and increasing the lifespan of products.
May I add just something? Morocco is exporting for the industry in Europe working in circular economy. We export aluminum cans. We export a lot of, I mean, all what has a price per kilogram, which is worth to be exported. Morocco exports it already. There are a lot of small companies taking care of this, and we contribute to the circular economy of Europe. For instance, I know that we export to Norway some of our aluminum cans and so on. But well, I don't have more news to say about this.
All right. Now I think we're out of time, and that's all the questions we can take in today's webinar. Thank you, our audience and panelists. So, with this, we have come to an end of this virtual event. And a very special thanks to Mr. Hussaini for superbly managing the session. A big shout out to all our attendees for extending their time and support for this event. We promise to be back with another exciting session. The floor is now open for networking. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank
Actually,
you.
thank you everyone. Have a
For
great
the
day.
invitation and thank you to the audience for having been here all this time.